Now we are going to do some more reviewing about clauses for our grammar test. Dependent clauses. Let's look at adverb clauses. Always start with a subordinating conjunction. Some of the subordinating conjunctions you'll see are after, although, as, because, before, if, since, unless, than, until, when, where, while, rather than, whichever, as much as, whereas, now that, even though, wherever. Be careful with before, after, until, and since. They can also be used as prepositions. Think of before lunch or after school or until 3 o'clock or since yesterday. Those would not be dependent clauses because those are just prepositional phrases. Now, an adverb clause is like an adverb. It's going to answer the questions how, when, where, how often, to what extent, why, how much, or how soon. Most of your adverb clauses will modify or describe a verb. Example, my dogs follow me wherever I go. Wherever I go is an adverb clause, and it is answering the question where. Wherever I go modifies this verb, follow. So this is describing follow. When you're diagramming it, you'll put that clause attached to the word follow. Sometimes an adverb clause will describe an adjective or an adverb, just like adverbs do. The adverbs can describe a verb, an adjective, or an adverb. And these adverb clauses that describe adjectives or adverb, they usually tell to which degree. Like, look at this one. Jay throws the football farther than anyone else can. Than anyone else can describes the adjective farther because it's telling how much farther. Sometimes part of an adverb clause is missing. Look at this sentence. Jay throws the football farther than anyone else. The dependent clause has an understood verb. It means than anyone else can. Remember when we did understood subject with commands? Like we said, eat your dinner. And that was an understood subject. The subject was you. Well, this one has an understood verb, can. Let's review the comma rules next. If an adverb clause is at the beginning of a sentence, use a comma. Because I finished my homework early, I went outside to play basketball. We always put a comma at the end of the clause, not after the word because, at the end of the clause. Now, if the adverb clause is at the end of a sentence, you usually don't use a comma. If I had the same sentence and rearranged it, I went outside to play basketball because I finished my homework early. So, with this one, you do not put a comma before or after that because. There's no comma at all. Now let's look at the exception to this rule. If the adverb clause is at the end of the sentence and it shows extreme contrast, you often do use a comma. Let's look at this one. I went outside to play basketball, although I hadn't finished my homework yet. The adverb clause is although I hadn't finished my homework yet. Notice that even though that this part really isn't necessary for the sentence to make sense. You could say, I went outside to play basketball. It makes sense. I don't have to have this extra information, although I hadn't finished my homework yet. So it's really kind of non-essential, and you're going to put a comma before this one. If it's not a big contrast, you're not going to put a comma. But sometimes when there's a contrast like this, a word like although, or even though, you're going to add the comma.